world of comic books. This was the debut of The Walking Dead, that's about zombies.
It is about zombies.
It is
No,
about zombies.
actually, The Walking Dead refers to the humans.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing about The Walking Dead, though, is the focus is very much on human interaction and how they deal with their situation. And zombies are obviously there,
Yeah.
duh, but it sort of takes a backseat in many ways to how people cope and how people are and what humanity is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, it brought zombies back to the forefront of everyone's minds.
Yeah.
When
In a lot of
when
ways.
this came out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's so funny because the first issue, it came out, it didn't even print 10,000 copies. It wasn't that big a deal, but very quickly.
Yeah. No one knew who
caught
Robert
on.
Kirkman was.
Yeah, I mean, he did like Battle Pope and
Yeah.
stuff.
BP.
But it just slowly, very quickly actually grew into this just massive hit. And it came from Image Comics, which
Right.
is creator-owned comics, where Robert Kirkman gets like pretty much all the profits from that. Him and his artists, Charlie Adlard and Terry Moore from the first arc. And then the thing is that it grew so much and became this beast, and it was outselling Marvel Comics and DC Comics and all which take up the market share for at least 30-40% every month. But here this Walking Dead was this juggernaut, unstoppable.
This hard R black and white comic.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Obviously, like you were saying, it was more about the human interaction. And to do that, all the comics are black and white.
Right.
There's no color, just to focus it on these people and what they're doing, and not the blood splashes and gore and stuff. Even though there was plenty of that either way.
Yeah.
For human on human and zombie on human and it's any kind of violence you can imagine.
Yeah.
And now to this day, whenever a trade comes out, it's like the number one selling thing for the month, whatever. It's juggernaut. It's a surprise, actually, that they haven't done a spin-off. They spun off the TV show before the comic book.
Yeah, they're sort of spinning off the game, even with like the Michonne episodes and 400 Days. Yeah, it is insane, too, that this was the start of this sort of multimedia empire that, the game was our nominee for Game of the Year at IGN. The TV show is one of the most popular shows on IGN. It has Fear the Walking Dead now. Like, this is, one of those multimedia properties, sort of. There's very few things like it, maybe like the Marvel things, maybe Star Wars and maybe Game of Thrones, but it's like, it is its own platform.
It's very much everywhere. It's in every different medium that you could want, and it's done well in all of those mediums, which I think is very remarkable.
Except for Survival Instincts. But
Except
we don't need to
for
talk
that
about
one,
that
but-
one.
or the mobile one. It also has
I
Daryl Dixon
meant-
voice in that one, too.
There's multiple video games, but it did at least one of them correctly.
Right. Thanks, Telltale.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
even
important.
from a narrative standpoint, that the first comic series was such an interesting take on the zombie. Like, before then we'd always had these zombie slasher movies and stuff about either you're already well established or it's the when it first happens, everyone freaking out. And this, you're in the shoes of someone who just woken up past the initial exposure, but it's still relatively new that they're trying to figure it out along with the reader.
Yeah.
Right.
And going into that iconic scene of going into Atlanta, where you just see all the cars had to all stop trying to get out of there. You're like, oh, it looks pretty fine here. Oh, no, actually there's hordes of zombies. And the way that scene played out is such a I'm glad that they were able to adapt it so well for the TV show, because it was such a really cool experience seeing that unfold in the comics, and see it again in the live action was even better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful things in multimedia today. It started with this little comic book.
Yep.